And good evening. We are coming on because we want to just address what just happened. We know that a TV broadcast went out saying that there was an emergency and that Kern County is being evacuated. So we have confirmed that there is in fact no emergency. There's no emergency. It was a weekly test that somehow went out as an evacuation order by the Kern County Offices of Emergency Services. We've been on the phone with them. They confirmed there is no emergency. It was an accident.
And we've got lots of phone calls, obviously, into the newsroom. This is that crawl that you see over your TV screen. You hear those tones get broadcast out. And that's what went out over the air, that an evacuation order was issued for Kern County. But just moments ago, we were able to confirm that was a mistake. It was rather supposed to be a weekly test. We see those a lot. You hear them on the radio. You see them on TV. A test of the emergency broadcast system that somehow there was an error. And we all think now back to that Hawaii situation where that alert went out over their airwaves that a ballistic missile was going to be fired. So a lot of those initial feelings were felt in our newsroom when we heard that evacuation order. Obviously here in Kern County, we think about the dam, we think about those situations here. That is not the case. There is no evacuation order from the information that we're getting in our newsroom right now. It was just a mistake.
That's right. And so I'm pulling up the Facebook Live so that way I can make sure I can answer any questions, or we could try to answer any questions. So everybody's saying, oh, thank goodness it's okay. I'm glad it was just a mistake. So if you're just tuning in, if you're watching TV just a few moments ago, an alert went out, one of those that sounds like an Amber Alert or a weather advisory where it does the tones, and it said Kern County is under an evacuation order. So instantly we were trying to figure out what was going on. It was not our doing. It was something that was out of our control. We called the Kern County Offices of Emergency Services. Their phones, as we could hear, were ringing off the hook in the background. They said they were conducting a weekly test that somehow went out as an evacuation order. They said they're working on trying to figure out how that happened. Even though everything was set to be a test, it somehow still made it on the airway. They did confirm there is no emergency. They wanted to calm everybody's fears. They're trying to figure out what went wrong.
And this is the Kern County Office of Emergency Services. If you know, this is right near Bakersfield College. It's essentially the hub of all the communication that would happen in the event of an emergency. So you have sheriffs, Kern County Fire, you have the other authorities that would enact and get into these emergency preparedness situations. So that's the center where this message came out of. Again, we were able to confirm just a moments ago that that was a mistake. But of course, we're living now in this 21st century age of terrorism and of all these situations that are happening with North Korea. We, of course, have natural disaster emergencies that could face Kern County with breaking of the dam, with an earthquake. So noticeably and understandably, so many people were affected by this. Just that moment notice only went out once, but it was enough to create quite a panic. I know for myself, I was right in the back, and all of a sudden we heard the phones ring, and that's
off the hook.
Off the hook is pretty unusual all at once, and obviously a lot of nerves being rattled today. That's
right, and we did just get some new information into the building. Kern County Fire actually emailed the newsroom and said the emergency evacuation message being sent out was done in error. Again, repeating that there's no emergency. The message was to test the system. The test was picked up by a local station and reported as an actual emergency. Again, only a test. There is no emergency. Again, that's coming from the Kern County Fire Department, and as we mentioned, we got on the phone with the Kern County Offices of Emergency Services to figure out why this happened, if there actually was an emergency, so that we could let our viewers know. They reassured us there is no emergency. It somehow accidentally went out live instead of just being a test. So creating a lot of fear, a lot of phone calls. We've been receiving messages on our Facebook page. Social media is crazy. So we tried to tweet out as fast as we can. We tried to get on here to make sure that we could calm those fears and let you know that there is, in fact, not an emergency. This went over the TVs. I have some people asking if it came out on social media. It only went out on TV as far as we know.
Yeah, and obviously the comments that we're reading is what we feel as well here is that this sounds like another case, at least unrelated to a ballistic missile, but another case of an emergency service situation possibly hitting the wrong button or putting the wrong message out there. Obviously, in this situation, that an evacuation order would be needed. Now, we can presume what's going to come out of this situation and out of this story is, are we prepared? Is this system truly fail-safe? Is this human error? That can be fixed in the future? And what do we do in this situation? I mean, when you receive that order of evacuate Kern County, I know for myself, I have a daughter who's in school. My wife's at work. What do you do in those situations? And that is really what sparks the panic and fear. And I think what's going to come out of this situation is have a plan, be ready for a situation like this, and what do you do?
Right, absolutely. And what is the county doing, and what is their plan that's in place? Once this comes out, do they alert local news stations, let them know that this is not a test next time? Is there fail-safes in place, like you mentioned, that it's not just one person that can hit a button? Is everything lined up? Was it a technical error? Was it a human error, like you mentioned? And is there a way we can prevent this from happening again? Because everybody, I think, got pretty nervous here in the last few minutes trying to figure out what happened. We mentioned earlier the dam possibly breaking.
Right. That's always in the back of the minds of so many people in the Kern River Valley, and of course here in the Valley. Let's talk to our producers in the back, and if they can work on perhaps getting us on the line with someone from ECC, the Emergency Communications Office, the service office there, or perhaps from Kern County Fire. We want to speak to those folks and try to see preliminarily what happened here in this situation and what may be the recourse. But again, if you're just now tuning in on our Facebook page, our live stream, or our website, this was not an evacuation order. This was what will probably be described as a grave error from someone in that ECC Communications Center that essentially called for an entire evacuation of Kern County. That is a false alarm. We are not hearing any information to corroborate that.
That's right. And again, I want to reiterate the Kern County Fire's email to the local media outlets. It says the emergency evacuation message being sent out was done in error. The message was to test the system. The test was picked up by local TV stations and reported as an actual emergency. Again, only a test. There is no emergency. We can't stress that enough. Please, if any of your friends or family are calling, reiterate to them that this was somehow an incredible error.
Right, and when we talk about the numbers here, we're talking about a county with 800,000 plus people. The metro area, Bakersfield, 400,000 people. You can imagine the panic that's been set in from folks all around this county. And when I called my wife, she had known what was going on. Obviously, she's not in front of a TV, and so there's probably going to be a lot of people you're going to be talking to throughout the evening that are going to be calling you, hearing this. You're obviously watching this on Facebook. The message went out over television, so we're trying to cover all our bases, working on getting a scroll on our air that says this was not an emergency. But obviously, you may get phone calls from loved ones. Let them know everything is okay.